Today we're going to look at 6 advanced YouTube strategies to grow your channel. And yes, these also apply to channels who already have millions of subscribers. Number 1. Placing an ad every minute in order to increase RPM. Now, RPM is the amount of revenue you make per 1,000 views. So if you have 1,000 views and the RPM is 5, you get $5 per 1,000 views. But in order to increase the amount of money, we want to place ads in our video. But even since I got started in this industry, nobody had a clear answer to when you should place those ads and how frequently you should place them. So that's when I decided to run an experiment. I took a few videos and placed an ad every single minute. In the first group of videos, I had videos that would place the ad every 2 to 3 minutes, which was already at the time a practice that many were doing. Then I would compare the performance of those videos, especially RPM performance, against videos with 30-second ads and even placing an ad every 1 second into the video. Now, if you wonder what that looks like, this is how it looks like on the timeline. There's like a lot of yellow. Now, what was fascinating is that once we went to the placing an ad every minute, we did notice a slight increase in the RPM. However, if we compared that to placing an ad every 30 seconds or even every second, we didn't really notice too much of an increase or boost in the performance. So for this reason, the advice became to place an ad every single 1 minute. Now, if you're wondering how this impacts video performance, because this was also something I was scared about, so far there was no indication that this would harm videos, as some of the videos I experimented with, even the one where I placed an ad every second, had more than 1 million views. And a fun fact about YouTube, whenever an ad is too disruptive, YouTube will not even serve the ad. Number 2. A/B testing your thumbnails in 2-week intervals. Recently, YouTube launched its test and compare feature, which allows us to upload multiple thumbnails, up to 3, to check which the audience is more likely to click on. However, many creators, including Mr. Beast, Ryan Trahan and others, are actually using this feature wrong. The reason for this is that just testing every single day is not going to give you conclusive data. Let me give you a few reasons. Number 1. From past experience, we've noticed that even if we have a test between 2 thumbnails and in the first test we notice that thumbnail A is winning, that result can change to thumbnail B just by waiting a few days. For this reason, we want to make sure to run a test multiple times. Now, the second reason why they're making mistakes is because of re-exposure. When viewers see a video on YouTube, they don't always instantly click. You can actually test this yourself. Go to the YouTube homepage and see which of these thumbnails you recognize. It actually often takes multiple exposures of the same video before certain viewers click on the video. So now imagine that you would upload a video and instead of 5 to 6 times having the same thumbnail that could lead you to click, now that thumbnail or even the title always changes. Well, now you don't have the re-exposure needed in order to make this viewer click. So this makes it that now it might take even longer before the viewer clicks and you're actually hurting the performance of your own video. So for this reason, we're going to always test with 2-week intervals, and we're gonna have a very specific way of testing our thumbnails. First, we upload our video with multiple thumbnails in order to get initial data and see which YouTube believes is the best thumbnail. Then, after a few days, we rerun the test because now we are more likely to touch a different audience to see which of these thumbnails would now win. And from there on, now we do tests in 2-week intervals. This means that you do a test and you wait 2 weeks. The reason why is because we need to see if this thumbnail change actually impacted the performance of the video. Because a lot of times, even if a test wins, if the video still generates the same amount of views per day on your channel, that means that the thumbnail test didn't really do anything special for your video. And this period of testing and the time it will take in order to see a shift in performance often takes 2 weeks or even more. By the way, all of these are guidelines. They could be shorter, they could be longer, but this is the guidelines that we're using for most of the top channels I'm working with, as I've mostly seen the best results from this practice. Number 3, launching new channels with end screen traffic. And we can use them or we can buy them. Now, this is going to be a very complicated one, and this is not going to apply to all the channels, but a lot of creators have a lot of end screen traffic. In a lot of good cases, even 5% of the total traffic can come from end screens. So imagine a large creator pulls in about 20 million views per month from normal traffic, about 5% of that will be end screen traffic if they optimize well. So that's about 1 million views that we could have sent to any video we want. Now this is where the cool practice comes. Instead of linking these videos to videos on our own channel, we could send these views directly to a side channel of ours. A channel that we just launched and where YouTube still needs that initial audience to launch and find the right audience. So if you're a larger channel, guess what? Take your end screens, take the 5% traffic and redirect it to a new channel to get that initial boost. Then afterwards you could still send your end screen back to your main channel, but at least now the second channel has a way better chance to succeed than a channel that you launch and gets like its first 10 views or 100 views, or where people have to just magically discover that channel. This practice I have used to launch a channel to 100,000 subscribers in a week time. By the way, there's also a strategy that if you work with brand deals, you could use this strategy to ensure a certain amount of views. And then where does the buying portion come into play? Well, this is if you are maybe not able to have a main channel that has enough traffic to send to your side channel. So if you have the financial means, you could literally pay another person to put your videos and your channel in the end screens and this way buy traffic from them. If this is the right audience, this could actually contribute to faster growth for the channel that you're now launching. By the way, this is a very complicated strategy and it's not an easy one and definitely not a cheap one. But again, this is a video about advanced strategies. So that brings us to number 4. And this one is also going to be utilizing end screens, but for a different purpose, more for testing how well a video could perform. So in this case, what we do is we take a video that we have edited and we edit it in 2 different ways. Then we upload both of them to the channel as unlisted. Now on your public videos, we put these 2 unlisted videos with the same title and thumbnail as end screens on your video. This will already send views and traffic to those videos, even though they are not live yet. Now you can simply wait for some traffic to come in, and then once you have a few thousand on each video, you now have retention data and other types of data that will help you understand how likely the viewer is to watch more. In most cases, for smaller changes, it's not going to impact it very big. But for some videos, if the audience suddenly watches 30 seconds less on one than the other, now you've got really good data, really organized and structured data that you can use to decide which of these versions you should actually make public. So the video that did worse, you just simply delete it or keep it unlisted, and the video that did well, you make it public now. And it's one of the greatest ways currently to do a really good test on what works better for retention. And yes, you could actually also use this to test out thumbnails. This was the old way to test out thumbnails, where you would pretty much upload the same video twice, change the thumbnail, on the end screens you put it with the same title, and now you see which of these generates more traffic. Number 5, dub the languages which you notice have a lower AVD in the geographical area that people are watching from. I know this is very complicated, but let me break it down in a very simple step. When you go on YouTube right now, you will find a lot of videos where if you go to the audio track, you will see that you can watch this content in multiple languages. This is called dubbed content, and here's a quick example of how it looks like when you watch something in English.
I'm gonna spend the next 50 hours buried alive in this coffin.
And when you watch something in Spanish.
Voy a pasar 50 horas enterrado vivo en este ataúd.
And the reason why all of these creators are doing this is because this contributes to so many views on their channel. In fact, I wouldn't put this in this video unless I really believe that this is able to push you to a whole new level. And I'm not gonna go into the percentages, but when I say it's a lot, I'm saying it's a lot. Now this feature isn't available to everybody just yet, but in the upcoming year this will be available to most, if not all, creators. And to get you prepared for this one, I want to already let you know how you can identify which languages you should be dubbing in. First of all, in your calculation you need to figure out the views in a region in comparison to its population size. This makes you understand in your videos which countries you may not be reaching at all. So for example, I know that Thailand is one of those countries where there's a lot of YouTube consumption. However, a lot of English creators never reach the Thai population. So that's a perfect language to think about in terms of views that you are getting from that country in relationship to the amount of population watching YouTube. Next up, not every single country that you're not reaching requires dubbing. Maybe they just don't like your content. So for that reason, the second thing we're going to be looking at is English proficiency. This means that we're going to look at which part of the population actually speaks English at a decent level. And here's a quick chart if you want to look at it. I will make sure it's on screen, you can pause it, then you can see English proficiency. And third, you're going to look at regional AVD. Now, those who have already watched some of my other videos, such as this one, you know that I hate AVD overall and I think it's one of the worst metrics. But for this purpose, it actually works really well and it's a good predictor of how these languages are going to perform. So what we do is we look at the English AVD that we have on our current channel. For example, it is 7 minutes. Then what we're looking at is, let's say in Thailand, we notice, oh, people are only watching for 2 minutes. And if we have a combination of low AVD and low amount of viewership in that country, and it has low proficiency in English, we could use this as a means to decide to dub into that language. And then you will notice that, hey, you have a strong Thai audience.
ผมจะใช้เวลา 50 ชั่วโมงนับจากนี้ถูกฝังทั้งเป็นในโลงศพ
Now, a small disclaimer, there's a lot more factors that come into play at the end of this calculation, but this is just to give you an idea of how you have to think. Some of the other factors are cost of dubbing, which tends to be pretty high. We're talking about $25 to $30 per minute if you want to do it manual, and then AI is about 1/10 of that. Then there's also the RPMs in those countries. Some of those countries have very low RPM. Then there's factors such as the African countries. A lot of those countries are not adopted to YouTube just yet. You know, that's why Ethiopia, for example, is one of the countries that doesn't make it on the list eventually if you start to take into consideration how internet consumption is, and many more factors. But at the end, by just using the 3 factors that I just mentioned, you can make a pretty good judgment on which languages to dub into. And lastly, the last strategy is to look at old formats that are 3 to 4 years old, and then to re-bring them back as they were evergreen formats. So you know, strategists always talk about evergreen keywords that stay relevant for forever, right? Like dumbbells, right? Everybody's going to be using dumbbells. But there are certain formats that are also going to pause time. For example, if we think about Ryan's Spanish series, right? The one that blew up so much. Well, if we go a few years back, guess what? He did something similar. And even if we look at Mr. Beast, $1 versus format. Look back on YouTube and you can find videos that are 3-4 years older that had that same format. This is where most large channels really stand out. We're not just looking for individual keywords, we're looking for formats that have already proven to do well in the past, and we bring them back in a new way and an improved way. So these were 6 advanced YouTube strategies that are going to help you with your YouTube channel, and I hope you liked this video, as this is a little more of a complex video, but I thought it'd be good to share with you these details. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.